Arriving at the Howlett estate, Mr. Kenneth tells to young Rose the tragedy that happened here. The elder son of Mr. and Mrs. Howlett died of illness, sending Mrs. Howlett to a madhouse after that. Young Rose asks Mr. Kenneth about the old man, and he tells her that he's a self-made millionaire, made from copper ore, but that he is to be avoided because he's not like his son Master John, who is good to everyone. The old man is a blighter when it comes with people of their station. Mr. Kenneth then asks Rose what brings her up from the village, and she tells him that her parents passed away from the influenza and that she is alone. And so, Mrs. Hopkins, who knows her haunt, thought she would be a good companion for young Master James, Master John's and Mrs. Howlett's younger son, seeing that Mrs. Howlett is ill and him being an only child. Mr. Kenneth inquires about her age, and she tells him she's 12, and he then advises her that if she wants to be 13, she'll need to keep to herself and do exactly as she's told. Mr. Kenneth leaves Rose in front of the house, and as he rides off with the carriage, Rose is approached by a boy, complimenting her on her beauty and her hair, but then blows dirt on her face and runs off laughing. Mrs. Hopkins tells her that the boy is the groundskeeper's Logan's son, and that they are both no good. Then she cleans her face, telling her not to mess up this great opportunity for her. Mrs. Hopkins leads Rose inside the house and introduces her to Master John, who is delighted to meet her, and tells her that his son James is going to like very much to meet her too. Sometime later, Rose writes in her diary on how James is frail and afflicted by allergies, but a good boy nonetheless. How Master John is very kind to her, but always so busy. How she never sees Mistress Elizabeth, who's secluded in her room, and how the old man is a cruel old buzzard, always complaining. She writes about another child working in the estate, the Logan boy, who everyone calls Dog, always full of scrapes and bruises. She fancies that his father, Mr. Logan, who drinks at all hours, beats his son as much as he looks at him, and wonders how that boy is sure going to cause her trouble. Since there are only 3 children at the estate, Rose writes how they have become best friends. How James is very fond of Dog, and how they play together despite James's allergies. But at the end of the day, Rose and James return to that wonderful house, but Dog must go to his life down below. On another day, Dog and James spend time together by the pond. James teases Dog about him liking Rose, and smelling a flower, he sneezes, falling into the water. Dog immediately runs to save James, who doesn't know how to swim, and drags him out of the water. After that, in the house, Mr. Kenneth dries Master James, while Rose explains herself for not being with the boy, and Master John tells her not to be concerned, since boys will be boys. Master John tells Mr. Logan that there will not be any ramifications on the incident, and gives a towel to Dog to dry himself. The old man immediately explodes at his son for letting the Logans go without any punishment, but James brushes him off, ordering Thomas, Mr. Logan, to take his boy home and take care of him. Later, in his house, Dog cowers on the floor, begging his father for forgiveness. His father tells him that their kind don't mix with the Howlett's kind, because they live in their fancy houses and the Logans live on the dirt. James misses his mother terribly, who is so distant yet so close, especially when he catches a glimpse of her in the balcony at times. On one of these occasions, in the garden, James catches Dog spying on them and runs after him, but Dog runs away. On Christmas Day, Master John serves punch dressed in one of Mrs. Hopkins' aprons for everybody's entertainment, as James plays with the little puppy he received. The old man protests with his son about this nonsense, but James doesn't give him the pleasure of another argument. Master John then goes to Rose's room and asks her why she is so sad, and Rose tells him that she misses her parents, and now her mother would always make her new dress for Christmas. At this, Master John reaches for the closet and gives Rose a new dress, which brings her much joy. After that, Master John returns to the living room, where Mr. Kenneth has caught Dog spying on the window. Master John recognizes the boy, and points out how he hasn't seen him much around the house lately, and gives him one of James's presents. The boy thanks him joyfully, but again, this erupts another argument with the old man. Meanwhile, Logan, Dog's father, drinks at the local pub, drunkenly berating the Howletts on how they think they are better than them, and how Master John is soft and doesn't know how to treat his servants and even his wife. Logan leaves the pub for home, as Dog runs for him to show him the present Master John gave him. This enrages Logan, and he proceeds to beat his son with his belt. Again. Rose writes in her diary on how she always knew that Logan boy would be trouble, how in the last years he's become like his father, with cruelty in his eyes, and it frightens her. At the door to Mistress Elizabeth's room, Mrs. Hopkins orders Rose to go and see if Master James needs anything, and to bring up some sheets, but to not forget to knock on the door. In the living room, John is telling James that he and his grandfather expect him to live up to his responsibilities now that he is older, that he will be tutored on how to handle the estate's matters, but this falls on deaf ears, since James is looking out the window petting his dog. Like always, the old man interferes, arguing on how the boy will turn out to be a lesser version of Master John, and how he doesn't forget that he has lost his elder grandson, asking his son if he wants to lose another. Rose interrupts to see if Master James needs anything, but Master John sends her away. Rose writes on how unutterable sadness fills the air in the house nowadays, how the old man seems more impatient, how Master John is more wary, and how James is even more ill, pale, and weak, suffering with coughs and sulks, and she wonders if he would have gone his elder brother's way if not for his puppy, who he loves. Rose comes back upstairs and, forgetting to knock on the door, witnesses Mistress Elizabeth changing clothes, seeing the scars on her back. The lady screams and orders Mrs. Hopkins to get the girl out of the room. Mrs. Hopkins rushes Rose out and orders her not to tell anyone what she saw. Frightened, Rose runs out the house and into the garden. There, Dog greets her and grabs her. James follows them and witnesses Dog grabbing Rose. Dog tells him to get lost, and James runs to get his father's help. Rose catches the opportunity, slaps Dog, and runs away from him. Later, Master John warns Mr. Logan that he will be responsible if there's any sort of recurrence in what happened in the garden. At the grave of his older brother, James stands in the rain with his dog. He's surprised by the Logan boy, who attacks him for ratting him out and for trying to take Rose from him. The dog bites Logan to protect James, but Logan picks the dog up and slits its throat. Later that evening, Master John apprehends Dog's father and tells him to leave his property for what his son did. Logan lashes out at John, threatening him, but John tells him he should be thankful that he doesn't hang them both. As Master John leaves, the old man nags him on how he warned him this would happen, and at the same time 2 servants drag Logan off the property. Later, Logan returns home and his son cowers on the floor, begging his father to not kill him, swearing it wasn't his fault. Logan agrees with his son, telling him that it's John and James's fault for doing this to them, and that a man like John doesn't deserve the life and the woman he has, and that it's time they made a change to that. As Rose talks to Mr. Kenneth about what happened, the Logans, armed with shotguns, knock out the butler and take Rose with them, demanding her to take them through the back way to the master bedroom of the house. In the master bedroom, Logan grabs Elizabeth from behind and tells her that they are leaving and taking her with them, while asking for the money. Rose tells Elizabeth that they made them do it, and Elizabeth orders them to let the girl go. In the meantime, Master John enters the room, and is surprised by the commotion. Logan strikes John with the hand of the shotgun, and puts the barrel on John's head. James surprises everyone entering the room, and Logan pulls the trigger, killing his father. James runs to his father's dead body, crying and shouting for him. Rose screams with horror, and Logan orders his son to shut them both up. Dog, not knowing what to do, points his shotgun to James's head, but before he pulls the trigger, Rose pushes Dog, and as the gun goes off, James attacks Dog's face and Logan's stomach. Elizabeth begs Logan not to hurt her son, and Logan pushes James off and threatens him. But before he can do anything, he falls to the floor, bleeding from his belly. With desperation, kneeling on the floor, James screams, with claws coming out of his fists. Rose recalls the horrendous moment in her diary. She will remember the sound until the day she dies. The sound James made, the birth cry of a new creature. He mewed and whimpered in pain with Rose and Elizabeth standing witness, with John and Logan's bodies on the floor, and Dog grabbing his injured face. Elizabeth, incredulous, begs for James not to be what she fears him to be. In shock, James asks his mother and Rose what happened to his hands. Elizabeth slaps him and throws things at him, while telling him to get out of the house and calling him a monster, an animal, an abortion. James, crying out for his mother, runs out of the house, and Rose goes after him, while Elizabeth kneels on the ground embracing Logan's body. Dog swears to Elizabeth that it was not his intention for this to happen, begging her to not hurt him. Elizabeth picks up one of the shotguns, puts the barrel on her head, and kills herself. Outside, James lays before Rose, a monster, a beast, something less than human. But underneath it all, just a boy. Mrs. Hopkins wakes the old man with the company of men from the local constabulary to inform him of the incident. Later, Rose hides with James in a barn, not knowing what to do and afraid of being framed of the incident. James appears to have lost his memory, having vague recollection of who Rose even is. In the house, the men question Dog without success, but the old man interferes and threatens to have him hanged if he doesn't tell the truth of what happened. Dog lies, incriminating Rose of the incident. In the village, Rose visits his aunt asking for help, but her aunt refuses since the police is looking for her. Not knowing what to do and not having any choice, Rose and James go back to the estate. On their way, they find the old man outside in the snow. Rose explains what happened and shows James's claws to the old man. The old man brings them to the house without no one noticing. He tells Rose that from this moment on they are refugees. He banishes James as an aberration and instructs Rose that with his influence on the town, for the next 10 hours there will not be police at the train station, and gives them some money. Rose tries to reason with the old man since this is his grandson, but the old man tells her that the last of his line died the previous day. Rose and James leave, and eventually catch a train from Alberta to British Columbia. Rose writes in her diary about how far they have traveled, how remarkable it is that James is healing before her eyes without any medicine, how James is unaware of where they are, what happened, and even who he is, and that they exhausted their supplies and money not knowing what will become of them. She promises James not to let anything else happen to him. They arrive at the quarries in the northern frontier. Rose often heard her father talk about this place. No one would follow them here. They meet Smitty, the quarry foreman. Rose tells him that she can cook, clean, sew, read and write. He asks about James, and Rose tells him he's her cousin, who doesn't talk much, but he's a hard worker. Smitty demands to see James's hands, and as suspected, he sees that the boy has never worked a day in his life. Rose pleads with the man that James will work hard for more than his shift if he needs to, in exchange for a place to stay for a while. He asks for the boy's name. Rose hesitates, but tells him his name is Logan.